Welcome to Asian Media Network, your source of engaging conversation regarding to issues that matter to the Asian community. And today we'll start a special talk show where we dive into the complex process of immigration and labor importation from Vietnam to United States. Ms. Kathy Nguyen, CEO of My America, and attorney Gabriel Grisbaum from the Grisbaum Law Firm is EB3 program. What does EB3 stand for?
EB3 is a third preference employment-based immigration program. So essentially there are two categories of employment-based that are higher priority, but this is the third priority category. Some of you may be familiar with EB5, an investment category. That's actually lower priority category. But the EB3 program is for skilled and non-skilled workers without degrees, essentially, where the job position does not require a college degree. And most of the positions in the program that we sponsor are unskilled, which means that there are no requirements to get the position.
From the employer standpoint, what benefit them?
But what the benefit to the employer is higher quality workers. Generally speaking, the people who are willing to take the lowest level, entry-level jobs in the United States are not the highest quality workers. Because people who are in foreign countries who are motivated by their children growing up in the education system of the United States, or they're motivated by the growth potential of their own income, those people have a much stronger motivation to perform well in a job. And so these employers, not only do they get more employees than they could hire normally in the United States, but also they get better employees who stay longer and work harder and are more dedicated to improving themselves within the position.
The children that come with the parent who in the EB3 program, will they qualify to go to apply for school, go to school here, and treat it as the U.S. permanent resident, which is the lower tuition? Is that they have the same benefit?
Correct. When they come here, they immediately can enter any public school, like high school, no cost, like our kid, and college, like our kid.
Wow.
Discount. That's one of its benefits.
Yeah, different states have different residency requirements, but generally speaking, once you've lived there for a year or two, you will be able to qualify as a resident of the state or a resident of the country, and then you'll get highly discounted rates over international rates at U.S. colleges. Yes, highly discounted.
Wow, that's so good to know that. Today, the topic about immigration and the labor importation law. How did you start this process?
First, I started in 2011, and a year later, I focused in Vietnam. Why? Because I'm a Vietnamese, and I like to have my people come here as much as possible to enjoy the freedom and education from the United States.
That's very great. I mean, throughout the course of what you've done, how many people that you have helped bring them to America have the America dream?
I cannot remember the number, but I love to say that 100 of them, and I changed their life for better. And also all my students, when they come here to study college, I give them a chance to become U.S. citizen. That's my pleasure to doing that.
Yep, that's probably a greatest gift you can give to anyone. So about you, Attorney Gabriel, how did you start? I mean, how long you been practicing in this field, and how?
So I lived in China starting in 2009, and at that time I worked for an exchange company that mostly did J visas for larger companies, so work and study exchange programs. Then I moved back to the United States after I got married, and I started at a larger national-sized business immigration firm where we did a lot of extraordinary ability visas, self-petition stuff. Then I started doing more L1s, and eventually I transitioned to a broader practice. Now I started my own firm in 2020, and this practice focuses on companies in the United States who are looking to employ foreign nationals, and those foreign nationals often are coming for specialized knowledge, or they may be coming under this program, an EB3 unskilled program, where we have jobs available for Vietnamese people, or any people, but Vietnamese people is who we're targeting now. Those jobs are available in the United States, and they're permanent. When we have employers that approach us with jobs they can't fill in the United States. So the truth is, the United States economy is very strong. There are a lot of companies that are hiring, and they can't fill all the positions. And so when they routinely cannot fill a position over months or years, that's when they start looking to see if they can sponsor a foreign national to come and fill the position permanently, hopefully. And so that's what we do, is we communicate with these employers who need, who have open positions that they can't fill, and we facilitate the arrival of foreign nationals to take those positions and become permanent residents in the United States.
Wow. The question is, how fast can you bring them here?
So that is one of the major challenges of the program, is that it does take 24 to 31 months generally from the outset to get landed in the United States as a permanent resident. So a lot of employers do find the timeline to be a problem. Because obviously when you have an open position, you're not looking to wait 2 years to fill it. But the thing about the positions that we're offering now, these positions are always open. In other words, they can never fully staff these construction jobs or these restaurants. And so when you can never fully staff them, you know that 2 years in the future, you're still going to need people. So that's how we sort of identify qualifying positions, and also employers who would be willing to sponsor.
When you mentioned the process, 24 to 30 months, why is so long?
Well, it's so long because the government has a number of steps that you have to take. The first ones are taken by the employer. So the employer has to conduct a recruitment process, which requires them to place advertisements and try to find U.S. workers. If they can't find enough U.S. workers, which they never can because they are always trying. When they can't find enough U.S. workers, what we will do is we will file a permanent labor certification application on behalf of each foreign national. Once those are certified, we will file an immigration petition on behalf of each foreign national. And each stage takes 7 to 10 months. So that's why it takes so long. Then there's a consular processing interview. The consular processing interview requires medical examination, it requires other steps, and it sometimes also is delayed. And in fact, the government can delay any of these steps either randomly or for some reason that is unpredictable. So the reason we see such a long process is because the government requirements are quite strict.
I see. Yeah. So for when you mentioned about interview process, that's when it go through how many months through the process that the interview kicking, like a year?
Well, so the interview process is the last step. And the interview process will generally be at the very end stage, because usually at the interview, if it's successful, you will get they will keep your passport, and then they will put your immigrant visa in your passport and mail it back to you. So that usually is the very end stage. So we're talking about 20-ish or plus months to get there. Yeah.
Now who interview who? Is
so
that the
consulate
interview?
officer at the consulate in Vietnam will interview each applicant. And the interview process is generally designed to make sure that they are who they claim to be, that they don't have criminal violations, that they don't have immigration violations in the U.S. Those are the main issues.
I see.
Yeah.
So for the interviewing, the employer, the sponsor employer from the U.S., do they have the chance to interview the employee, or they handle everything through immigration?
Yes. Most employers prefer to have, or their recruitment process does require an interview. And if the recruitment process requires an interview, which is the case for, I think, almost all of our employers, we will have that interview before we apply for I-140, before we apply for the immigrant visa. Or the immigrant
so
petition.
They interview them first.
Yes, they have to because before they can file the I-140, they have to have determined that the person can meet the qualifications for the job. So that's when they interview, generally, is before we file that. So that's the third stage.
So that means you have to make sure that the employee, the worker from Vietnam, be able to pass the interview in English with the sponsor employer in the U.S.
Yes.
Yes, and generally that's about 14 months into the process.
Yep. Okay, that's good to know. So when they come here, there's a lot of things. Like, for example, they new to the country, housing, get the driver license so they can go to work? All of that. Who take care of that for them?
Yes, that's a good question because that make our job more valuable and that needed for them. Just like come from another country, everything new and everything like open a new world. So we have them settle for the kids go to school, help them to have driver license, help them find housing or apartment, and then all kind of things. They have to settle their family first before they go to work, and find a place for them to study English. So it's very important.
And part of my job is to help get them Social Security cards and the necessary government documents so that they can, they have the proper documentation to rent a house, buy a car, do the things that they'll need to do.
But do they need a credit too, right? They cannot rent a
Well,
car.
for renting, yes, credit is generally required. For buying, if you're buying in cash, no.
Money, yes.
Yes,
Yep.
money talks. So.
Yeah, money talks.
So let's say after you help them settle in and start working for the sponsor employer, and when is the time that, let's say, if they click in and everything go well, of course, that's the deal that we would like, right? However, if things didn't go well, or they struggle with a job and they couldn't handle that, what happened to them? Can the employer let them go?
So yes, the employer can let them go. And the good news is that the whole family has green cards. And whether or not, even if the employer does fire them, they will still have green cards.
And they can find another job.
Right.
Yes,
and they'll be eligible for any of the many jobs that are available in the United States at this time that can't be filled.
Wow.
So if you're already in the United States and you have a green card, it is very easy to get an entry-level position. Remember, we're actually finding employers who are willing to wait years and pay money and take risk in order to have people in the door in the door 2 years later. So if you're able to immediately provide that benefit to them, of course, they are definitely very excited to have those people.
So then, from the employee standpoint, of course, they want the worker work for them long term.
Yes.
But what is the commitment that the worker have for the sponsor employer?
Usually 6 months, but we ask our clients that work like 12 months.
12 months.
Yeah,
okay,
12
1
months.
year. Minimum 1 year for your sponsor employer.
Yes.
Yeah.
12 months.
And from the sponsor employer, like people listen to the show right now and they say, oh my God, this is like the solution I've been looking for. And they want to register, they want to be able to enroll in this program with you. What is the requirement for them to start the paperwork, the process?
Requirement for employer.
Yeah, employer.
I can speak to the initial requirements. So we have a disclaimer, which it's a long questionnaire, a yes/no questionnaire that asks you, have you ever violated status in the United States? Have you ever committed this kind of crime or that kind of crime?
Yeah.
Because basically it's a questionnaire that asks you all the reasons that you can be denied at the consulate interview.
Yeah.
And we don't want anybody denied at the consulate interview because we've already done all the work. So we want you to know at the outset, if you've overstayed in the U.S., if you've entered illegally, if you've been convicted of various criminal things, you're not going to qualify. So those are the main disqualifications.
Is that for the employer or for the
employee.
employee?
It's for both.
For
it's
worker.
for both. But I mean, we don't want, neither side wants these things to fall apart at the
Okay.
end. So it is important that we have that everybody be clear at the initial stages that these are disqualifying factors, and if you have them, you don't qualify.
Okay.
So that's one thing that we do initially. But the next thing that we do is we have to gather information, sufficient information to file the permanent labor certification application, and that permanent labor certification is. It's fairly detailed. It requires a work history, it requires an address history. So it does require a lot of information out of the client, which we will translate for you and enter into our case management software, which will produce the forms for us.
That is for employee from Vietnam. What about employer, sponsor employer? What do they need to be qualified in the program?
So they need to be qualified in two ways. First is the ability to pay. That's generally not a problem for most of our employers. Basically, if your tax return indicates that you have enough money to pay, you have enough money to pay. The second main issue is that the job position has to genuinely be available, and the job position has to be a real position that they need. And so we have to look at the operations of the company. We have to define the job position, both in terms of location, in terms of requirements, in terms of who the employer actually is. Remember that for larger companies, there's often a network of companies that are related. So we have to define the actual employing company and make sure that all of the corporate relationships qualify, so that we don't encounter any issues of having the wrong sponsor or something like that.
And does a company have to be profitable, or
Yes.
can they be? If they losing money in the last 2 years, would they qualify for the
Unlikely.
program?
I mean, it's
Unlikely.
potential, but unlikely unless there's some reason to believe, like, for example, you're taking in a large investment, or there's a large amount of assets that are underperforming now, but there might be a reason to believe that they will perform better in the future. There are reasons that would allow us to, if you had lost money for 2 years, to sponsor, but generally speaking, you need to be making money to sponsor employees.
All right. So basically, they have to provide some kind of like income tax. How many years?
If we can find,
1
if
year.
if they have a lot of asset, they likely can qualify for.
Larger companies generally qualify,
Okay.
at least for smaller numbers of sponsored employees.
Okay. And then when they come here, sponsor for this, let's say a lot of employer, they're going to say, right now, I know I need about 10. But 2 years from now, how do I know? The economy could go up, go down, and I have multiple locations. Can I ship them, send them to out of state, to like Oregon, to California, instead of Phoenix? What's your answer for that?
So the short answer is, generally speaking, you can list any number of work sites that you might assign them to. However, the more complex answer, you'll want to talk to me directly,
Okay.
because every single company is going to have its own circumstances, and your corporate structure really plays an important part in that question.
All right, that sounds good. And Kathy, is there anything you would like to add on through your experience doing this for the last 12 years? What do you see is a common challenge or issue that you have seen, and you'll be able to resolve that, overcome that?
The challenge from the clients.
Client or employee, worker?
Yeah, for the last 12 years, I see the common challenge is how to come to the United States faster.
Yes,
Okay.
I think a lot of people are concerned about coming faster. I think there are the other challenges, for example, from the employer's standpoint, the challenge, like you defined, of how many people do I need in 2 years? That's a difficult question, right? There's
Yeah.
also difficult paperwork, a little bit of paperwork that employers need. Larger employers who have complicated corporate structures, we do have to work out what the structure is and make sure that it's clean enough to qualify for U.S. citizens.
And also I know there's several company or agency claim that they successfully bring in a worker from another country to United States. Well, the successful rate I know is very low. So what is your secret? What is your successful rate, and what is your secret for that?
My company, there are no secret to success. The key for EB3 is you have a sponsor always there for you. That's it. And then a good attorney know how to work, and the staff very familiar with the process.
The secret to our success is having the right sponsors. Before we start this process, we vet every sponsor to make sure that they have the proper income, the proper corporate structure, and the proper positions available in order to qualify for the program. So many fly-by-night organizations or service to provide the similar services, they don't actually have jobs available in the United States. They only have hope that they can find jobs at some future point. That's not how we operate. We find and identify qualifying sponsors who are going to follow through with the program, and that's how we have a 100% success rate.
Wow, that's great to
100%.
know that. Yes,
And we never have a denied case for 12 years.
that's good. That's
Yes.
good for the credibility, because a lot of people, they apply through different agency and they end up got denied, and they waste time and lost money, and the whole process. So going back to the employer, the initial process, take 24 to could be 30 months. Let's say if it's an ongoing, let's say every year I sign up with you, was that still 24 months or
No, that's
31 months?
No, once the process gets started, we can shortcut a large amount of it because the prevailing wage, once determined, can be used for at least a year, but sometimes longer. And so what you can do is just always have an available prevailing wage determination. And then what that means is that we can shortcut the process by at least 7 months, but often more than that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so such initial enrollment is take longer.
Yes.
But once in the system, things get easier and faster.
That's right.
In terms of pay rate, like for example, from the employer standpoint, was that gonna help cost saving for them if they hire worker from another country and pay a little bit less than if the same type of job that they would pay for the U.S. worker?
So the short answer to that is no. You cannot. You have to pay the foreign people exactly what you pay the U.S. people. And in fact, part of our vetting process is understanding what the pay package is that's offered to the U.S. entry-level position, because we have to offer that exact package to entry-level positions for foreign nationals.
And that would some job will include health benefit and for the job.
Yes.
So
If health benefits are included in the normal package, then they are included in the foreign nationals package. Also, I would note that for the vast majority of these positions, they're going to qualify for subsidy for healthcare in the United States. I know that a lot of people will qualify to pay near zero for healthcare.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's very good program for the employee, the worker from Vietnam or other country. Because I guess that would attract more people to apply to come to the program, because the employer could not find job. They do everything they can and they still could not fulfill that job requirement. That's why they have to go to another country to import them. And because of that, they need to treat these workers the same as U.S. worker.
Correct.
Because they are resident already when they come to the United States.
You're already a U.S. worker when you arrive.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's and I could imagine that all the work that on both of you, paperwork and everything that you have to do to work with, not only is that U.S. Labor Department, but also immigration, right?
Yes.
Hand to hand.
Yes, it's both the State Department, which is the department, which is the final stage, the USCIS Department of Homeland Security, and then the Department of Labor as well. So there's actually 3.
Wow.
3.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you need somebody experienced who done this type of service for many years. They learn from the mistake, the challenge, and they keep improving it. And like she said, 100% successful rate for the client, both the employee and the employer.
That's right. Our EB3 programs are very successful.
Yes. Can you give a few examples of the employer who have used your program in the past?
One of my clients from Austin, like the Holiday Inn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he continued to sponsor my clients for like 7 years, since 2015. And he loved it. He loved Vietnamese worker. That helped him a lot, especially during the COVID. Remember the COVID?
Yeah.
The hotel shorted and all the my clients stay with them long, 9 days.
Wow.
So they love it.
That's good.
One of the...
For what you do now, before we end the conversation today, audience out there, if you would like to, for the employer, if you would like to contact Kathy or Attorney Gabriel for more information about this, that call the number on the screen. And for the worker from Vietnam, you watching this show and you're interested, you want to find out, again, call the number and they will help you. Is there anything else you would like to say to the audience?
I like to say that if you have American dreams, you want an education for your kid, do it now, because you never know, the law can be stopped somehow, someday, and the sooner is better. And just us about American dream and education for your kid.
They can share their story. Those are wonderful things that we want to hear. Our audience would like to watch this show. So we're looking forward to invite you back in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you for watching Asian Media Network.